Oscar Bevis, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Valas here in San Diego. Steve, we've just seen and been reminded again how good, not that we needed reminding, how good Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez is.
It's artwork. I mean, someone just texted me and said that was Michelangelo. And, well, you do art on canvas, and he painted another masterpiece. And I honestly thought the scores were very, very generous towards Martinez. I thought he painted him the whole night. And one thing about Roman Gonzalez, he's not fast or flashy, but he's an absolute textbook, and he gave an exhibition on how to fight from the mid-range, no wasted motion. And for as great as he is offensively, the discipline he showed in terms of defensive hand placement and tucking in his chin and rolling his shoulders, I don't think he really got hit clean all that much against the volume puncher. Oscar, I made the commitment to come out here. I don't go to that many fights anymore, and this was a little bit of a drive. This was worth it because I understand he is one of the last of the true greats, and we're not going to see him that often. I think we should really appreciate what we see tonight.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I do want to ask you quickly, because obviously I hadn't spoken to you before, what was your pre-fight assessment? What were you thinking coming in? Did you think Chocolatito, because of, one, how good he is, and two, the fact Martinez is jumping up, did you have him as a clear favourite in this fight?
I believe that his experience and savvy, also with Martinez, here's what I thought was going to happen. That the first 6 rounds would be really competitive, that Martinez's speed, quickness, and his ability to snap off punches, that Roman was going to have to catch up to the pace, that he was going to have to get used to it, and then eventually tame him in the second half. Honestly, I thought he did that early on. And I did think that Gonzalez was going to score a 9th, 10th round stoppage. I thought he was close in the 10th in this fight. You can make an argument that Martinez's corner, the only thing braver than him were them, as they let him out there for the 11th and 12th. But the ability of a savvy old veteran to slow down the tempo and the pace and to pick his spots right down the middle to be much more accurate and concise in his punches, it was an absolute artwork, what he did in there. It was just the craft that he has, the mastery of technique, the combination punching. I don't want to say I'm in awe because I've seen it before so many times with him.
I mean, Martinez was a little bit of a sucker for punishment, and I don't know, I think you could see sometimes from his body language, he was getting frustrated that he just, one, couldn't put a dent, and two, couldn't land cleanly enough on Chocolatito.
Sometimes it seemed like the harder he tried, the more vulnerable he was. Because that's the thing, you could see what Roman was doing was very crafty. He had a very high guard, he was very disciplined, and every time he punched, he got his hands back, understanding something was going to come back. It's a very basic thing, but you got to drill that thousands of hours in the gym to make it not only a habit, you got to make it almost reflexive. That's what you do in the gym. And I've seen Roman Gonzalez train, and it's not like they do anything fancy. They do the same things over and over and over again. It's that old saying, don't do something in practice to a point where you always do it right. Get to a point where you can never do it wrong. And that's Roman Gonzalez. If you rewatch this fight, every time Martinez tried to open up, he was met with a high, proper defensive guard and stance from Gonzalez. And I think that really frustrated Gonzalez because Martinez, at times he wasn't as active as I think he wanted to be because he understood he was running into stuff as he opened up.
And just finally on Roman Gonzalez, obviously we got the Estrada trilogy, which we would like to see. Bam Rodriguez was ringside, so it's one of them. I think Chris Mannix said it in the ring. We keep thinking in the back of our heads, is this going to be the time where we see Chocolatito perhaps push it one too far? But there's still fights we want to see, and looking like that, I mean, he can go on forever.
But there's only one fight to make from a commercial standpoint and from a historical standpoint. Look, I thought Roman won last year when they fought in Dallas. I thought he won 116, 112. I spoke to Carlos Blandon, the manager of Chocolatito, about 3 hours ago. I said, Steve, we still have a binding contract to fight Estrada the third fight. That's the fight that we want. They're very suspicious of how Estrada backed out of the fight. That being said, they still wanted to fight tonight because they had a very long camp. And I don't know if Estrada's going to sign on the dotted line. I mean, you can't force the guy to get in there, and now he's going to say, well, I've had such a long layoff, and Roman Gonzalez just fought. So who knows? But I do know this. If you ask Roman Gonzalez, does he want that third fight with Estrada? He'll say, sí.
Steve, one thing I just sort of want to pick your brains on. Canelo was in the house tonight. I went to the press conference on Wednesday, and yeah, obviously he signed this deal with Eddie and DAZN. Massive figures. Just kind of from your perspective, I want to know, you and yourself, did you prefer the Bivol Golovkin trilogy option or Charlo and Benavidez option for Canelo?
I thought both were really good. But as someone that was at both Golovkin fights and believe that Golovkin may have won both, or at least the second one was incredibly heated and got really good down the stretch. And then Bivol presents the hardest styles in terms of spacing and technique. And I see Carlos Blandon, the manager of Roman Gonzalez. We're going to talk later. The thing is, I like that one. Because Bivol is the number 2 rated light heavyweight in the world. That's the consensus. Right behind Artur Beterbiev. If you go back traditionally, what gives Canelo problems? Spacing and movement. Bivol is not what I'd call a great trench fighter, but from the outside, he's a great fencer. He's a very high boxing IQ. It's a real fight. I actually give Bivol a bit of a shot, more than just a little bit. And as for Golovkin, I want to see what happens April 9th, Oscar. I want to see what he looks like against Murata. Murata's the unknown. Golovkin's the mystery because we have not seen him in such a long time. Spoke to Jonathan Banks, the trainer, about 2 days ago. And I said, Jonathan, does Golovkin still want to box or is he just running out this lucrative contract? He said, Steve, I swear to you, I actually like what I see a lot. He still has a passion for the game. And I think we're going to see a very good version of Gennady Golovkin. But keep this in mind, the day before the fight in St. Thomas, he turns 40. 40 is 40. Training is different than fighting. So let's see what we have here.
One thing that everyone was asking Canelo, and I could see he was kind of getting a bit agitated with being asked it again and again, is about the people that he hasn't chosen to fight. And he sort of come out with this statement that, look, I've picked who I want to fight. You've got to earn me now. I'm sick of talking about Charlo, Andre, Benavidez. You have to earn me. That makes sense?
I have the solution. They need to clone Canelo. Okay, so we need like 5 or 6 Canelos. And what he'll do is he'll fight internationally, domestically, different parts of the country on one night, and he'll fight 5 or 6 different guys on one night twice a year. So this way, everyone's happy. So there you go, Eddie Hearn. Clone Canelo. You can do it. You have a lot of money at Matchroom. Okay, let's make some more DNA on the zone. And that's what we're gonna do. But seriously, I don't get. There's never been a guy. This is where I give Canelo credit. Out of his last 5 opponents, if you count Bivol, 4 of them have been undefeated champions. I got to look this up. When's the last guy to do that in boxing, modern day history? It's been a while, if ever. Also, he's unified divisions at 54, 60, was undisputed at 68. The standard is so high. There's a double standard, there's the no standard, there's the low standard, and then there's the Canelo standard. And it's almost unfair. But at the end of the day, he is right. Hey, guys, you could state the case by fighting each other once in a while.
We need a tournament. And then the winner gets to fight Canelo. Is that the only way it can get sold?
Look, on my show, the 3 knockdown rule, about 3 months ago, I said, hey guys, you guys got to earn the shot and create some distance here. Monday, we're going Monday to the movie premiere. Don't forget, I'll call you tomorrow. Yeah. It's Monday the 8th. It's the 8th. I'll call you. So anyway, that's Manny Robles, world-class trainer. In my view, Canelo can only fight one guy at a time. In today's boxing, these guys only fight twice a year. So if you look at Jermall Charlo, who I like, he only fought once last year. Struggled against a guy that got knocked out by Jaime Munguia in 3 rounds. That's not stating a case. David Benavidez, if he would have had the super middleweight belt like Caleb Plant, he could have been in line for a $10 million payday. He lost that title twice without ever losing a fight. That's another historic achievement. But belts matter. So when it's all said and done, I want to ask these guys, what have you done to actually get first in line?
And just finally, do you worry about boxing when the day that Canelo Alvarez retires? Because you've just sat there and said you can't think about standards of previous year.
Yeah. And I hate when people say, well, there's always the next guy. And I said, there's always the next guy when you have a system when young fighters are allowed to fight more often than twice a year in their mid-20s with less than 20 fights to build their brand and profile. And actually, this is important too, craft their overall skills. And I don't know if we're going to have that. I don't think fighters are active enough. We're not getting enough fights. The fights are very, very routine in a certain degree, like you know who's going to win most of the time. Also, Canelo's going to be the last real superstar, I believe, to have 50, 60, 70 fights. So there's a story to unfold and to tell. I am very worried about the sport post-Canelo. Can we develop another true superstar? Because in this current system, when you have fighters with 16, 17 fights who are then going to fight just twice a year, I don't know if you could develop a star like that.
We're going to have to enjoy him while he's here. Steve Kim, pleasure. Thank you for giving me some of your time again. And see you in the next one.
Absolutely. Always fun. Thank you.